Commander Vexthal stood on the bridge of the Imperial warship Dark Victory, watching the star charts with cold satisfaction. The Zeltharian Empire had ruled the galaxy for 3,000 years. They had conquered 847 star systems. They had enslaved hundreds of species. Today they would add another system to their collection. The bridge hummed with quiet efficiency. Officers moved between glowing control panels, their purple skin gleaming under the ship's harsh lights. Each officer wore the black uniform of the Imperial fleet, decorated with medals that told stories of conquered worlds. Vexthal's own chest carried more decorations than most. He had personally overseen the subjugation of 43 species. "Commander," called Navigation Officer Kelvar from his station, "we are approaching the target system. Long-range scans show 9 planets orbiting a yellow star." Vexthal nodded. This was routine work. Survey Fleet Omega-7 consisted of 12 ships, more than enough to handle whatever primitive species might live in this forgotten corner of space. The Empire's expansion never stopped. Every month brought new worlds, new slaves, new resources to fuel their endless growth. "What do the scans tell us about intelligent life?" Vexthal asked. Science Officer Nexara looked up from her instruments. Her 6 eyes blinked in sequence as she processed the data. "Commander, we detect a species on the 3rd planet. They call their world Earth. Initial readings suggest they are extremely primitive." "How primitive?" "They have achieved nuclear fission but nothing more advanced. Their fastest ships use chemical rockets. Their weapons are kinetic projectiles and crude explosives. They appear to be divided into nearly 200 separate nations that fight among themselves constantly." Vexthal smiled. This would be easier than expected. Most species had at least achieved basic space travel before the Empire found them. These humans had barely left their planet's atmosphere. "Population?" he asked. "Approximately 8 billion individuals. They cluster in large cities and show typical pre-space resource consumption patterns." "Perfect. 8 billion new slaves for the Empire." Vexthal turned to his communications officer. "Send word to the capital. We have found another species for subjugation. Classification, Class C target. Expected resistance time, 6 hours." The communications officer began transmitting the report. Class C was the lowest threat level. It meant a species that would surrender immediately once they saw Imperial power. Most Class C conquests ended without firing a single shot. But something bothered Vexthal. He had been commanding survey fleets for 50 years, and his instincts rarely failed him. Something about this system felt different. "Nexara, run deeper scans. Focus on electromagnetic emissions." The science officer's hands danced across her controls. "Commander, this is unusual. The humans are generating far more electromagnetic activity than expected for their technology level." "Explain." "They have satellites throughout their system, hundreds of them. Some appear to be monitoring deep space far beyond what their technology should allow. Their communication networks are surprisingly sophisticated." Vexthal frowned. Primitive species usually had simple communication systems. They sent basic radio signals and primitive television broadcasts. But according to these readings, the humans had complex networks that covered their entire planet. "What are they transmitting?" "Much of it is encrypted, Commander, but we can decode some signals. They appear to be sharing scientific data, military communications, and entertainment programs. The volume of information is enormous." "Entertainment programs?" "Yes, Commander. They create fictional stories and broadcast them for leisure. Many of these stories involve invasion scenarios." "Invasion scenarios?" Nexara's expression grew puzzled. "They create fictional stories about their world being invaded by alien species. The stories show different ways they might resist or fight back. Some of the tactical concepts are quite sophisticated." This was getting stranger. Most primitive species had simple myths about sky gods or nature spirits. They did not create detailed stories about alien invasions. Those stories usually only developed after a species had encountered other intelligent life. "Commander," interrupted the communications officer. "We are receiving priority transmission from Imperial Command." "Put it through." The holographic image of Admiral Thargenesis appeared above the command console. His scarred face showed the results of a lifetime of conquest. "Commander Vex Thule, your report mentions a species with 8 billion individuals. The Emperor is pleased. He has issued orders for immediate subjugation." "Yes, Admiral. However, I recommend caution. These humans show unusual characteristics." "Such as?" "Their electromagnetic emissions suggest they may be more advanced than initial scans indicate. They appear to be monitoring space far beyond their stated capabilities." The Admiral's expression hardened. "Commander, you are overthinking this. Your scans show a primitive species with chemical rockets and kinetic weapons. They cannot threaten the Empire. Begin standard subjugation protocols immediately." "Yes, Admiral." The transmission ended. Vexthul stared at the tactical display showing Earth's system. His orders were clear, but his unease grew stronger. "Nexara, those monitoring satellites, are they watching specific areas of space?" The science officer studied her readings carefully. "Commander, it appears they are monitoring multiple star systems, including our own approach vector. Some satellites appear to be watching areas where no human missions have traveled." "That makes no sense. How can they monitor star systems they have never visited?" "Unknown, Commander, but the data is clear. They have been tracking our approach for the past 3 days." Vexthul felt a chill run down his spine. No primitive species should be able to detect Imperial ships at long range. Their stealth systems were designed to be invisible to any technology, below Class A civilizations. "Are you certain they are tracking us?" "The satellite networks have been adjusting their positions to maintain observation of our fleet. Commander, I believe they know we are coming." This changed everything. If the humans could detect Imperial ships, they might have other capabilities that initial scans had missed. Vexthul had conquered many species, but he had learned to respect any enemy that could surprise the Empire. "Signal the fleet. Maintain formation but increase alert status to yellow." "Commander," asked his tactical officer, "should we proceed with standard subjugation protocols?" Vexthul studied the tactical display. Earth hung in space like a blue-green jewel, seemingly peaceful and primitive. But his instincts screamed that something was wrong. The humans were watching them with technology they should not possess. They created stories about alien invasion that showed sophisticated tactical thinking. Their communication networks were far too advanced for their supposed technology level. "No," he decided. "We will follow a modified approach. Send a diplomatic vessel first. Let's see how these humans respond to contact." "Sir, regulations require immediate subjugation of Class C species. I am modifying our classification. These humans are now Class B pending further analysis." Class B meant a species that might offer limited resistance, but would still fall quickly to Imperial force. It was a minor change, but it meant Vexthul could take more cautious steps. As the fleet adjusted course toward Earth, Vexthul continued studying the human broadcasts. The more he learned, the more concerned he became. These humans had been preparing for something. Their stories, their satellites, their monitoring systems all suggested a species that expected to be found. The Empire had conquered hundreds of species. They had seen it all. Warriors, pacifists, technology masters, primitive tribes. But they had never encountered a species that seemed to be waiting for them. On the tactical display, Earth continued its slow rotation, blue oceans and white clouds hiding whatever secrets lay beneath. Soon, the Empire would learn what humanity was truly capable of. Vexthul just hoped they were prepared for the answer. The diplomatic vessel Sovereign's Will dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of Earth's solar system. Captain Mordak checked his instruments and smiled with satisfaction. This would be the easiest diplomatic mission of his career. The ship's massive communication arrays powered up, ready to broadcast the Empire's standard message of surrender demands. Sovereign's Will was built to impress primitive species with its size and obvious power. The ship stretched 3 kilometers from bow to stern, its black hull decorated with imperial symbols that had struck fear into hundreds of worlds. "Captain," reported the communications officer, "we are receiving a transmission from the third planet." "Already?" "They're eager to surrender." "Put it through." The main screen flickered to life. Instead of the cowering primitives Mordak expected, he saw a human woman in a crisp military uniform. Her eyes were calm and intelligent. Behind her, other humans worked at sophisticated control panels. "This is Admiral Sarah Chen of the United Earth Defense Force," the woman said. "We welcome you to our solar system. We have been expecting you." Mordak blinked in surprise. Expecting them? How could a primitive species expect an imperial diplomatic mission? "I am Captain Mordak of the Zeltharian Empire. You will prepare your planet for immediate subjugation. Resistance is futile. Surrender now and your species will be treated well as slaves of the Empire." Admiral Chen's expression did not change. "We appreciate your offer, but we must decline. Earth is not interested in joining your empire." Mordak stared at the screen in shock. In his 20 years of diplomatic service, no species had ever simply declined the Empire's offer. They either surrendered immediately or begged for mercy. None had ever politely refused. "You misunderstand," Mordak said carefully. "This is not a negotiation. The Zeltharian Empire has conquered 847 star systems. Your species has chemical rockets and kinetic weapons. You cannot resist our power. Captain, we understand your position perfectly. Our answer remains no." This was impossible. The human seemed completely unafraid. She spoke as if she held equal power in this conversation. Mordak decided to demonstrate reality. "Very well. You will learn the cost of defying the Empire." He turned to his weapons officer. "Target their moon. Fire one plasma torpedo." The torpedo streaked toward Earth's natural satellite. The moon exploded in a brilliant flash of light and debris. The blast was visible from Earth's surface, a clear demonstration of imperial power. Mordak expected screaming, begging immediate surrender. Instead, Admiral Chen nodded calmly. "Thank you for that demonstration, Captain. Now allow us to show you something." Alarms suddenly began blaring throughout Sovereign's will. "The tactical," officer shouted in panic. "Captain, massive energy signatures appearing throughout the system." On the main display, space around the ship began lighting up with active sensors. Objects that had appeared to be asteroids suddenly revealed themselves as weapons platforms. Derelict satellites came online with power signatures that should have been impossible. "Captain," the tactical officer continued, his voice shaking, "I'm counting over 3,000 armed platforms. They've been hidden throughout the system." Admiral Chen's voice came through the communications channel. "Captain Mordak, Earth has just activated Directive Omega. This directive was created specifically for this situation. You have 30 minutes to leave our solar system." "This is impossible," Mordak whispered. "Our intelligence showed a primitive species." "Your intelligence was limited to what we allowed you to see," Admiral Chen replied. "Captain, I'm going to be honest with you. Humanity has been watching your empire expand for over 200 years. We've studied your tactics, your technology, your weaknesses. We've been preparing for this meeting." The tactical display showed weapon signatures beyond anything in Imperial databases. Energy readings suggested technology that might rival even advanced Empire systems. Mordak felt sweat running down his face despite the ship's climate control. "How?" he asked. "How have we been watching you? How have we prepared?" "Captain, those are questions you should ask your commanders. They might wonder why an empire that has conquered hundreds of worlds missed the signs of an advanced civilization." More alarms sounded. The weapons officer reported, "Captain, we're being targeted by over 50 platforms. Their weapons are unlike anything in our database." "Admiral," Chen continued speaking from the screen, "let me explain something about humanity, Captain. We are very good at learning from others. We watched your empire conquer the Altarians. We studied how you defeated the Crystalline Collective. We observed your tactics against the Hive worlds. Each conquest taught us something new about your military methods." "You're bluffing," Mordak said, but his voice lacked conviction. No primitive species could hide this level of technology. We're not primitive, Captain. We never were. We simply chose to appear primitive while we prepared for your arrival. Every species your empire conquered was studied. Every battle was analyzed. Every weakness was catalogued. The communications officer interrupted. Captain, we're receiving transmissions from multiple points throughout the system. They're all military frequencies using encryption we can't break. Admiral Chen smiled for the first time. Those are our defense coordinators. They're currently tracking every ship in your survey fleet. Yes, Captain, we know about the other 11 ships waiting at the system's edge. They're also being targeted. Mordak's blood turned cold. The survey fleet's position was supposed to be secret. How could the humans know about ships using Imperial stealth technology? This is your final warning, Captain. Leave our system now. Take this message to your empire. Earth is not interested in conquest or slavery. We wish to be left alone. If you respect that wish, there will be no conflict between us. And if the Empire doesn't agree to leave you alone? Admiral Chen's smile disappeared. Her eyes became hard as steel. Then your Empire will learn why we've been preparing for 2 centuries. Captain, we are not the frightened primitives your intelligence suggested. We are apex predators who have been studying our prey. Your Empire has made many enemies over the millennia. Some of those enemies have been sharing information with us. The implications hit Mordak like a physical blow. If humanity had been in contact with other species conquered by the Empire, they might have access to technology and tactical information spanning thousands of years. You have 15 minutes remaining, Admiral Chen said. Mordak looked around. His bridge. Every officer stared at him with fear in their eyes. The tactical display showed enough firepower to destroy a battle fleet. The humans had somehow hidden an entire military civilization while appearing primitive to Imperial surveys. Captain, his tactical officer whispered, recommend immediate retreat. Mordak nodded slowly. He had no choice. Admiral Chen, we will withdraw. But this is not over. The Empire will send a battle fleet. We know, Admiral Chen replied calmly. We've been preparing for that too. Safe travels, Captain. Sovereign's will turned and accelerated toward the system's edge. Behind them, the weapon platforms remained active, tracking their departure. As they reached the jump point, Mordak took one last look at Earth. The blue-green planet looked peaceful and innocent just as it had during their approach. But now he knew the truth. Humanity had spent 2 centuries preparing for war with the Empire. They had hidden their true capabilities while studying their enemy. As the ship entered faster-than-light travel, Mordak began composing his report. The Empire would not believe what he had to tell them. No species had ever hidden advanced technology so completely. No primitive world had ever been prepared for Imperial contact. But the evidence was clear. Humanity was not primitive. They were predators who had been waiting patiently for their prey to arrive. The Empire had finally encountered a species that had been hunting them. The question now was whether the Empire would realize the trap before it was too late. Fleet Admiral Kexthul stood in the command center of the battlecruiser Imperial Dominance, studying the tactical reports with growing anger. Captain Mordak's diplomatic mission had been a complete failure. Worse, the captain claimed the primitive humans possessed advanced military technology. Impossible, Kexthul muttered for the 100th time. No species hides that level of capability. Battlefleet Terminus consisted of 300 warships, the largest force the Empire had assembled in decades. Each ship carried enough firepower to level a planet. The fleet had never known defeat in over a century of conquest. If the humans truly possessed advanced technology, this force would crush it. Admiral, called Intelligence Officer Vexilima from her station. Updated analysis of human capabilities suggests Captain Mordak's report may be accurate. Explain. Deep space reconnaissance has detected massive energy signatures throughout the human system. Their defensive platforms show technology readings that approach Class A civilization levels. Kexthul slammed his fist on the command. Console. Then why did our initial surveys classify them as primitive? The humans appear to have been using sophisticated concealment technology. They hid their true capabilities while allowing us to see only chemical rockets and kinetic weapons. For what purpose? Unknown, Admiral. But the concealment required planning over decades or centuries. This suggests long-term strategic thinking. Kexthul had conquered 47 star systems during his career. He had seen every type of resistance: desperate last stands, guerrilla warfare, technological surprises, alliance formations. But he had never encountered a species that prepared for Imperial contact by deliberately appearing primitive. Signal. The fleet, he commanded. Battle formation Delta 7. Full weapons ready. These humans want to fight. We'll give them one they'll never forget. The massive fleet began moving toward Earth's solar system. 300 ships stretched across, space in perfect formation. Each vessel bristled with plasma cannons, torpedo tubes, and energy weapons capable of cracking planets. The Empire's military might had crushed every opponent for 3,000 years. As they approached the system's edge, the fleet's sensors began detecting the same energy signatures that had confused Captain Mordak. But Kexthul was not impressed. Hidden platforms meant static defenses. Static defenses could be overwhelmed with superior numbers and firepower. Admiral, reported the tactical officer. Long-range scans show approximately 4,000 defensive platforms throughout the system. Only 4,000? Against 300 capital ships? They're outnumbered. Sir, the energy readings from those platforms are unusual. Some signatures exceed our database references. Kexthul waved dismissively. Primitive species often have unstable energy systems. Proceed with attack formation. The fleet entered the solar system and immediately came under observation. Every platform in the system turned toward them, tracking their movement with precision that suggested advanced targeting systems. Admiral, the communications officer announced, we're receiving a transmission from the third planet. Put it through. Admiral Sarah Chen appeared on the main screen, wearing the same calm expression that had frustrated Captain Mordak. Behind her, human officers worked at control stations with quiet efficiency. Fleet Admiral Kexthul, she said, welcome to our solar system. We hoped you would reconsider after Captain Mordak's visit. Admiral Chen, your deception ends today. You will surrender immediately, or face the full might of the Imperial fleet. Admiral, we're not deceiving anyone. We simply prefer to be underestimated. It's a useful tactical advantage. Kexthul studied the human woman's face. She showed no fear despite facing 300 warships. Her confidence seemed genuine, not the bravado of someone facing hopeless odds. You have 1 minute to begin evacuation of your military platforms. Admiral, we're going to decline that offer. But before you begin your attack, let me show you something. The tactical display suddenly filled with new contacts. Ships began appearing throughout the system, emerging from what seemed like empty space. The computer counted rapidly. 50 ships, 100, 200, 500. Stealth technology, breathed the tactical officer. They were hiding an entire fleet. Admiral Chen's voice continued from the speakers. Admiral, these ships represent a small portion of Earth's defensive fleet. We've been building warships for over a century while your intelligence services watched us play with chemical rockets. The human ships were unlike anything in Imperial databases. Their hulls gleamed with energy fields that suggested advanced shielding. Their weapon signatures showed technology that matched or exceeded Imperial standards. This is impossible, Kexthul said. No species develops this capability in secret. Admiral, you keep saying things are impossible, but here we are. Would you like to see what else we've been building? More ships appeared. The tactical display showed over 1,000 human vessels, all equipped with technology that rivaled the Empire's best. But something else caught Kexthul's attention. The human ships moved with perfect coordination, as if controlled by a single mind. How are they coordinating so precisely? He asked his tactical officer. Unknown, sir. Their communication technology appears to be quantum-based. They're sharing information instantaneously across the entire fleet. Admiral Chen seemed to hear his question through the open channel. We learned from studying your battles, Admiral. Imperial fleets rely on hierarchical command structures that create communication delays. Our ships share information through quantum-entangled networks. Every captain knows what every other captain knows in real time. Kexthul felt the first stirrings of doubt. The humans had not just hidden advanced technology. They had studied Imperial tactics and developed counters. This suggested intelligence gathering over decades. Admiral, his weapons officer reported, the human ships are moving into attack formation. Their pattern is unusual. The tactical display showed human ships arranging themselves in complex three-dimensional formations that seemed to defy traditional military doctrine. Some ships moved in tight clusters while others spread across vast distances. The pattern looked chaotic but felt deliberately planned. Attack formation Omega, Kexthul commanded. All ships open fire. 300 Imperial warships unleashed their fury at once. Plasma torpedoes and energy beams filled space with deadly light. The first volley should have destroyed half the human fleet. Instead, the human ships seemed to dance between the attacks. Their movements were impossibly precise, as if they knew exactly where each shot would go before it was fired. Energy shields flared as some weapons found their targets, but no human ship was destroyed. How are they avoiding our targeting systems? Kexthul demanded. Sir, they appear to be using predictive algorithms. They're calculating our firing solutions before we complete them. Admiral Chen's voice came through the communication channel again. Admiral, we've been studying Imperial weapon systems for 200 years. We know the firing patterns of every ship class in your fleet. Your targeting computers are quite predictable once you understand their programming. The human fleet opened fire. Their weapons were unlike anything the Empire had encountered. Beams of pure energy cut through Imperial shields like they were paper. Projectiles moved at impossible speeds, striking with precision that suggested perfect targeting. Imperial dominance shook as human weapons found their mark. Damage reports flooded in from across the fleet. Ship after ship reported shield failures, hull breaches, and system failures. This is impossible, Kexthul shouted. We outnumber them 3-1. Numbers don't matter when the enemy knows your every move. Admiral Chen replied calmly. Admiral, your fleet is using tactics that worked against primitive species. We are not primitive. The battle continued, but it was clearly hopeless for the Imperial fleet. Human ships moved with supernatural coordination while Imperial ships struggled with communication delays and predictable tactics. Every Imperial maneuver was countered before it could be completed. Admiral, his tactical officer reported, we've lost 80 ships. The humans have lost 3. Kexthul stared at the tactical display in horror. The greatest battle fleet in Imperial history was being systematically destroyed by a species they had classified as primitive days earlier. Signal retreat, he commanded. Sir, Imperial regulations forbid retreat from primitive species. These are not primitive species, Kexthul roared. These are apex predators who have been hunting us for centuries. Signal immediate retreat. The surviving Imperial ships turned and fled toward the system's edge. Behind them, human ships maintained perfect formation, allowing them to leave, but tracking their every move. Admiral Chen's final transmission followed them. Admiral Kexthul, please carry this message to your empire. Humanity wishes to be left alone. If you return, we will consider it an act of war. And Admiral, we've been preparing for war much longer than you have. As the battered fleet escaped into faster-than-light travel, Kexthul composed his report, with shaking hands. The Empire had encountered something unprecedented, a species that had been hunting them while pretending to be prey. The humans had shown tactical superiority, technological advancement. Emperor Zaltharis stood in the Imperial War Room, his massive form casting shadows across the holographic displays. For 3,000 years, the Zeltharian Empire had ruled the galaxy without question. No species had ever defeated an Imperial battle fleet. No primitive world had ever humiliated the Empire's greatest commanders. Until now. Show me the tactical records again, he commanded. The holographic display replayed the battle at Earth. 300 Imperial warships had been destroyed or damaged by a species classified as primitive just weeks earlier. The humans had demonstrated technology, tactics, and coordination that exceeded anything in Imperial experience. "Your Imperial Majesty," said Intelligence Director Morvex, "our analysis confirms the humans have been deceiving us for centuries. They possess technology that rivals our own in many areas and exceeds it in others. How is this possible? Our survey methods have never failed before. The humans appear to have studied our survey techniques and developed countermeasures. They showed us only what they wanted us to see while hiding their true capabilities." Emperor Zaltharis studied the battle recordings with growing rage. The humans had made fools of the Empire's best officers. They had turned Imperial overconfidence into a weapon against them. "Prepare Grand Armada Eternal," he ordered. 3,000 ships, every available vessel. I will personally command this operation. His advisors exchanged worried glances. Grand Armada Eternal was the largest fleet in Imperial history. It had only been assembled twice before, both times to crush rebellions that threatened the entire Empire. "Your Majesty," ventured Admiral Hexkala, "perhaps we should attempt diplomatic contact first. The humans have shown they possess significant military capabilities." "Diplomatic contact?" The Emperor's voice shook the walls. "They destroyed Battlefleet Terminus. They humiliated our finest officers. There will be no diplomacy with these creatures." The preparation of Grand Armada Eternal took 3 months. Ships arrived from across the Empire, creating a fleet that stretched across entire star systems. The combined firepower could destroy solar systems. No force in galactic history had ever assembled such might. Emperor Zaltharis stood on the bridge of the super dreadnought Eternal Victory, watching his armada prepare for jump. 3,000 ships moved in perfect formation, their black hulls gleaming with Imperial symbols. This would be the final demonstration of Imperial power. "Your Majesty," reported Fleet Communications Officer Delmaya, "all ships report ready for jump. Signal the fleet. Jump to the human system. Today we end this embarrassment." The massive armada entered faster than light travel. Within hours, they would arrive at Earth and demonstrate what happened to species that defied the Empire. The humans would learn that their tricks and hidden technology meant nothing against overwhelming force. But when Grand Armada Eternal emerged at Earth's solar system, they found something impossible. Earth was gone. "Where is the planet?" Emperor Zaltharis demanded. "Your Majesty," replied the censor's officer, his voice shaking. "The third planet is not there. In its place." He paused, checking his instruments again. In its place is an artificial construct of enormous size. The main display showed where Earth should have been. Instead of the blue-green planet, a massive structure orbited the Sun. The construct was larger than most moons, its surface covered in geometric patterns that hurt to look at directly. "What is that thing?" the Emperor whispered. "Unknown, Your Majesty. Sensors indicate it's composed of materials not in our database. Energy readings are extremely high." Admiral Hexkala studied her tactical displays with growing alarm. "Your Majesty, I'm detecting weapon signatures throughout the construct. Thousands of them. Some of the energy readings exceed our measurement scales." A transmission came through, on all Imperial frequencies. Admiral Sarah Chen appeared on the main screen, but she looked different. Her uniform was now pure black with symbols that seemed to shift and move. Behind her, the view showed not a normal command center, but something that looked more like the interior of the construct itself. "Emperor Zaltharis," she said calmly, "welcome to our solar system. We hoped you would understand our message after your last visit." "What have you done with your planet?" the Emperor demanded. "We moved it. Earth is safe in another dimension, while we deal with your visit. What you see now is what we built to replace it. We call it the Forge." "The Forge?" "A weapon, Your Majesty, built specifically for this encounter. You wanted to see humanity's true power. You wanted to force us to reveal what we really are. Very well. We are what remains when everything we love is threatened." The construct suddenly came alive. Energy. Patterns raced across its surface like lightning. Weapon ports opened along its hull, revealing technologies that made Imperial weapons look primitive. "This is impossible," the Emperor said. "No species can move planets or build weapons of this scale." Admiral Chen's expression hardened. "Your Majesty, you keep using that word. Impossible. But we learned something from studying your empire. When species tell you something is impossible, you should listen more carefully. You're bluffing. One weapon cannot defeat 3,000 ships. You're right, one weapon cannot defeat your armada." Admiral Chen smiled, and for the first time the Emperor saw something terrifying in her eyes. "That's why we didn't build just one weapon." Space around the Imperial Armada suddenly erupted with new contacts. Ships emerged from hidden dimensions, materialized out of empty space, and rose from concealed positions throughout the solar system. The tactical computer counted frantically. 10,000 ships, 20,000, 50,000. "Your Majesty," Admiral Hexkala reported, her voice barely a whisper. "Sensors show over 100,000 human vessels. They've surrounded the entire fleet." Admiral Chen continued speaking. "Emperor, these ships represent what humanity truly is. We are not the primitives you thought you found. We are the species that survived every extinction event our planet could produce. We are the apex predators who learned to hunt in packs across the stars. The human ships moved with coordination that defied physics. They flowed around the Imperial Armada like water, taking positions that made tactical sense beyond anything in military textbooks. Each movement was perfectly synchronized with thousands of others." "How?" the Emperor asked. "How do we coordinate so precisely? How did we hide this capability? How did we move a planet?" Admiral Chen's smile grew wider. "Your Majesty, we learned from every species your empire conquered. Each defeat taught us something new. The Crystalline Collective showed us dimensional technology. The Hive Worlds taught us coordination methods. The Altarians shared their energy manipulation techniques. Those species are extinct. We conquered them completely. Their bodies are gone, Your Majesty. Their knowledge lives on in our networks. Every species you destroyed contributed to what we've become. In a very real sense, they're all here with us today, helping us face their destroyers." The implications hit the Emperor like a physical blow. The humans had somehow preserved the knowledge and technology of hundreds of conquered species. They had spent centuries combining different technological approaches into something unprecedented. "You're saying you represent all the species we've conquered? We're saying we're what they would have become if you hadn't destroyed them. We're their revenge, their justice, their final victory over the Empire that thought it could conquer everything." The forge opened fire. Energy beams that tore holes in space itself reached across the solar system, striking Imperial ships with precision that suggested perfect targeting. But this wasn't like the previous battle. These weapons didn't just destroy ships. They unmade them, erasing them from existence so completely that no debris remained. "Shields!" the Emperor shouted. "Shields are failing, Your Majesty. These weapons operate on principles we don't understand." The human fleet attacked with tactics that seemed to come from a dozen different species. Some ships used crystalline phase technology to become temporarily intangible. Others employed hive coordination to strike with perfect timing. Still others used Altarian energy manipulation to turn Imperial weapons against themselves. "They're using the combat techniques of every species we've conquered," Admiral Hexkala observed with horror. "Combined and perfected over centuries of study," Admiral Chen agreed. "Emperor, your empire created us. Every conquest made us stronger. Every destroyed species added to our capabilities. You have been building your own destroyers for 3,000 years." Imperial ships began disappearing at an alarming rate. The humans weren't just defeating them. They were studying each ship as they destroyed it, learning and adapting in real time. The battle became a demonstration in applied xenoarchaeology, with humanity showing mastery of combat techniques from across the galaxy. "Signal retreat," the Emperor commanded. "Your Majesty, the humans have surrounded us completely. There's no escape route." Admiral Chen's voice came through the speakers one final time. Emperor Zaltharis, this is your final warning. The Zeltharian Empire will withdraw from this region of space permanently. You will release all conquered species and allow them self-governance. You will make reparations for 3,000 years of conquest and slavery. And if we refuse? Admiral Sarah Chen stood in the command center of the Forge, watching the remnants of Grand Armada Eternal flee toward the edge of the solar system. Emperor Zaltharis had agreed to humanity's terms after watching half his fleet disappear into dimensional rifts. The immediate threat was over, but Chen knew this was only the beginning. "Admiral," reported Captain Martinez from the tactical station. "Long-range sensors show Imperial fleets mobilizing throughout their territory. They're pulling ships from every system. As expected, the Emperor will try to rally support from his governors. How long until they can mount another attack? Conservative estimate? 6 months. But Admiral, our intelligence networks are reporting something else. Several conquered species are beginning to rebel. Word about our victory is spreading." Chen smiled. This was exactly what humanity had planned for. The Empire's greatest weakness was not military, but psychological. For 3,000 years, they had maintained control through the belief that resistance was hopeless. That belief was now shattered. "Signal the Liberation Fleet," Chen commanded. "Begin Phase 2. Across human space, ships that had been waiting in dimensional storage began materializing. These weren't the defensive vessels that had fought at Earth. These were hunter-killers, built specifically for offensive operations deep in enemy territory. Admiral Chen moved to the strategic display showing the entire galactic arm. Red dots marked Imperial worlds, blue showed recently liberated systems, and green indicated species ready to rebel. The pattern was clear. The Empire was beginning to collapse from within. "Admiral," Captain Rodriguez called from the communications station, "we're receiving priority transmissions from the Altarian resistance. They're requesting immediate support for a coordinated uprising." "The Altarians survived?" Chen asked with surprise. Intelligence had suggested the Empire had completely exterminated them decades earlier. "Not exactly survived, Admiral. They uploaded their consciousness into quantum networks before their world was destroyed. They've been hiding in Imperial computer systems ever since, waiting for an opportunity." Chen felt a chill of respect. The Altarians had found a way to preserve their species as pure information, living as digital ghosts in their enemies' machines. No wonder humanity's computer networks had developed so quickly. They had been receiving help from digital aliens for decades. "Tell the Altarians that liberation fleets are already en route to their former territory. They can begin their operation." The strategic display updated as reports came in from across the galaxy. Imperial worlds were suddenly experiencing system-wide computer failures as the Altarian consciousness network activated. Defense grids shut down, communication networks collapsed, and transportation systems stopped working. "Admiral," reported Captain Singh from Intelligence, "we're receiving similar contact requests from other species we thought were extinct. The hive worlds preserve their group consciousness in subspace. The crystalline collective embedded fragments of themselves in asteroid fields throughout the galaxy." The full scope of what was happening became clear to Chen. The Empire had never truly conquered these species. They had simply driven them into hiding while they waited for someone strong enough to challenge Imperial power. Humanity had become the catalyst that allowed them to return. "How many species are we talking about?" Preliminary counts suggest over 200 distinct civilizations that maintained some form of existence after Imperial conquest. They've all been waiting for this moment. Chen turned to address her command staff. "Ladies and gentlemen, we are no longer fighting just for humanity. We're fighting for every species the Empire thought it had destroyed. Begin full liberation operations." The next 6 months saw the fastest collapse of a galactic empire in recorded history. Human fleets appeared at Imperial worlds with coordination that suggested perfect intelligence about enemy positions. They didn't come as conquerors but as liberators, working with local resistance movements that seemed to appear from nowhere. On the former hive world of Kepler 442, the collective consciousness reasserted itself through quantum networks, coordinating resistance across 12 star systems simultaneously. The Empire's local governor found his entire administration paralyzed as every computer system began working against him. In the Crystalline Collective's former territory, asteroid fields came alive as hidden civilization fragments activated dormant technologies. Imperial mining operations discovered that their equipment was being controlled by the very rocks they were trying to harvest. Throughout Altarian space, the digital ghosts of a dead civilization took control of Imperial infrastructure. Starships found their navigation systems steering them away from strategic targets. Communication arrays began broadcasting liberation messages instead of Imperial propaganda. But humanity's role was more than just military. They served as coordinators, translators, and mediators between species that had been separated for centuries. Human diplomatic teams worked tirelessly to forge new alliances between civilizations that had never met but shared the experience of Imperial oppression. "Admiral," Captain Torres reported from the diplomatic station, "the Provisional Galactic Council is ready for its first session. Representatives from 87 liberated species are requesting to participate." Chen looked at the diplomatic display showing delegates from across the galaxy. Some were biological beings like humans. Others existed as energy patterns, digital consciousnesses, or crystalline matrices. The diversity was staggering, but they all shared one common goal: ensuring the Empire could never rise again. "Patch me through to the council session." The main screen showed a vast virtual meeting space where hundreds of different life forms gathered. Some appeared as holograms, others as energy signatures, and still others as abstract mathematical patterns. Admiral Chen appeared among them as humanity's representative. "Delegates," she began. 6 months ago, the Zeltharian Empire controlled over 800 star systems. Today, they control fewer than 50. This victory belongs to all of us." The response was overwhelming. Species that communicated through color changes, musical tones, electromagnetic pulses, and quantum fluctuations all expressed agreement in their own ways. Universal translators struggled to convert the cacophony into understandable language. "But our work is not finished," Chen continued. "The Empire still exists, and they're planning one final assault. Intelligence suggests Emperor Zaltharis is gathering every remaining ship for a desperate attack on Earth." A delegate from the reformed hive worlds pulsed with concern. The collective asks, "Is humanity prepared for this final battle?" Chen smiled. "Humanity is always prepared, but more importantly, we won't be fighting alone. Every species represented here will stand with us." The final battle came 3 months later. Emperor Zaltharis led the last Imperial fleet toward Earth, commanding nearly 5,000 ships in humanity's home system. He expected to find the same defensive positions that had destroyed his previous fleets. Instead, he found something unprecedented in galactic history: a united fleet representing over 300 different species. Ships of impossible variety filled space around Earth. Some were massive biological constructs grown by the hive, worlds. Others were crystalline formations that sang as they moved through space. Still others existed partially in other dimensions, flickering in and out of visible reality. "Your Imperial Majesty," Admiral Chen's voice came across all frequencies. "You face not just humanity today, but every species your empire tried to destroy. We are the survivors, the hidden, the thought extinct. We are your victims returned to seek justice." The Emperor stared at the massive allied fleet in shock. These weren't just ships, but representatives of civilizations spanning millions of years of galactic evolution. Technologies that should have been lost forever had been preserved and combined into something beyond Imperial comprehension. "This is impossible," he whispered. "No, Your Imperial Majesty," Chen replied. "This is inevitable. This is what happens when you try to conquer the galaxy. Eventually, the galaxy fights back." The final battle was not really a battle at all. The Imperial fleet was so completely outmatched that resistance became impossible. Ships that tried to fight found their weapons turned against them by Altarian computer viruses. Those that tried to flee discovered their engines controlled by crystalline collective consciousness. Others simply found themselves surrounded by so many different technologies that surrender became the only logical option. Emperor Zaltharis himself was captured when his flagship was boarded by a joint team representing 12 different species. He was brought before the Galactic Council to face judgment for 3,000 years of conquest and genocide. "Your Imperial Majesty," Admiral Chen said as she looked down at the defeated Emperor, "the Zeltharian Empire is hereby dissolved. Your species will be relocated to a single system under the supervision of the Council. You personally will stand trial for crimes against galactic civilization." "You cannot do this to us," Zaltharis protested. "We ruled the galaxy for millennia. We brought order to chaos. You brought slavery to freedom," corrected a delegate from the Hive worlds. "You brought death to life. You brought fear to hope," added an Altarian consciousness. "The galaxy,